North Korea's civil aviation development is a topic that fascinates many people around the world. Many might be surprised to learn that North Korea even has a civil aviation sector at all, which is understandable. After all, even their top leadership primarily travels by rail for international visits, something quite extraordinary in today's interconnected world. In September 2023, Kim Jong-un once again boarded his signature green armored train, making its way to Russia with its characteristic clickety-clack along the tracks. While the exact outcomes of this visit remain somewhat unclear, the mysterious armored train certainly captured global attention once again. The train reportedly has a maximum speed of only 60 kilometers per hour, which puts things in perspective. To give you an idea of just how slow that is, if you were driving at that speed on an American highway, you'd likely hear a chorus of expletives from frustrated drivers behind you.
Oh shit.
At such a modest speed, the journey from North Korea to Russia requires considerable time and patience. This raises an interesting question. Why wouldn't Kim Jong-un, known to be an aviation enthusiast, choose to fly instead? Does he have his own presidential aircraft? While many content creators have extensively covered Kim Jong-un's train and his Mercedes Maybach vehicles, there's been relatively little discussion about his presidential aircraft. Let's delve into this fascinating topic. While traveling by train is indeed a tradition for North Korean leaders, we can confirm that Kim Jong-un does possess his own presidential aircraft. We'll explore the reasons behind this railway tradition later, but first, let's discuss the presidential aircraft and the Kim family's interesting relationship with aviation. According to publicly available information, the North Korean government maintains two presidential aircraft. The first is Chonghaejin-1, named after the Goshawk, North Korea's national bird, which serves as Kim Jong-un's personal aircraft. The second, Chonghae-2, is designated for high-ranking government officials. Interestingly, Kim Jong-un has used his presidential aircraft for international travel, though not very recently. The internet's short memory might have forgotten, but in May 2018, Kim Jong-un flew to China aboard Chonghae-1, marking the first time in 32 years that a North Korean leader had traveled abroad by air. This choice of transportation seemed designed to present him as a confident, modern leader who adheres to international norms. Also in 2018, Chonghae-2 transported Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Yo-jong, along with other high-ranking officials to South Korea for the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics, creating quite a global sensation. Looking back now, such an event seems almost surreal, yet it definitely happened in 2018. Many people refer to 2018 as humanity's last great celebration, and this historic flight was certainly part of that momentous period. The aircraft reportedly used the registration number PRK 6115, symbolizing the June 15th joint declaration signed between North and South Korea in 2000. Kim Jong-un has frequently used Chonghae-1 for domestic flights and inspections within North Korea. Unlike his father, Kim Jong-il, who suffered from severe aerophobia, Kim Jong-un appears much more comfortable with air travel and might even qualify as an aviation enthusiast with considerable resources at his disposal. It's worth noting that during his studies in Switzerland, Kim Jong-un regularly traveled between North Korea and Switzerland by air. Speaking of the presidential aircraft, the name Chonghae-1 might sound more grandiose than Air Force One. Both Chonghae-1 and Chonghae-2 are modified Ilyushin Il-62M aircraft, Soviet-era planes that were groundbreaking in their time. The Il-62 was developed in the 1960s and was the world's largest jet airliner when it first flew in 1963. Here's an interesting tidbit. The prototype actually crashed during its maiden flight. One of the Il-62's most distinctive features is its unusual engine arrangement, with two pairs of engines mounted on either side of the T-tail, a rare configuration that must create quite a noise level in the rear cabin. Of course, the Supreme Commander wouldn't need to worry about that, as he would never be seated in the back. The Il-62 was considered quite advanced for its time as a long-range passenger aircraft. With a range of nearly 10,000 kilometers and a cruising speed of 900 kilometers per hour, it served as the Soviet Union's standard long-range airliner and was used as a presidential transport by leaders of 14 different countries. Even Vladimir Putin used an Il-62 early in his career. While the aircraft was cutting edge when it debuted, 80 years have taken their toll. As aviation technology advanced, most Il-62s worldwide have been retired to aircraft graveyards. As of June 11, 2024, no Il-62s remain in regular commercial service. This makes North Korea's two presidential Il-62s flying museums of sorts. The North Korean government has invested considerable effort in maintaining Changhae-1's airworthiness and ensuring it meets their leader's requirements. From available information, Changhae-1's interior is luxuriously appointed with sofas, desks, and the leader's favorite ashtrays. We can reasonably assume it's equipped with appropriate communication and navigation systems. However, given North Korea's technological limitations, this presidential aircraft still falls far short of Air Force One's capabilities. Before considering self-defense systems, their primary concern is likely ensuring this vintage aircraft can operate safely under normal conditions. North Korea has purchased retired Il-62s from other countries, but hasn't put them into service. These were likely acquired for spare parts for Changhae-1. Even with these efforts, Changhae-1 remains quite dated. Both the North Korean government and Kim Jong-un himself seem hesitant to use the aircraft frequently, prioritizing their leader's safety by generally sticking to the traditional rail transport inherited from previous generations. After all, flying literally means leaving the ground, getting closer to heaven, if you will. That's just a joke, of course. The presidential train offers superior security features and comfort compared to the aircraft, plus it can transport more cargo. When time is of the essence, as during Kim's 2018 Singapore visit, they've used alternatives such as a chartered Air China Boeing 747. Nevertheless, Kim Jong-un maintains a special fondness for Changhae-1. Reports suggest he occasionally takes his family aboard the aircraft for joyrides on the runway, taxiing around without actually taking off. Beyond the symbolic Changhae-1, sources indicate Kim Jong-un owns a personal aircraft, an Antonov An-148. This regional jet was jointly developed by Antonov with various Russian and Ukrainian aerospace companies. Kim has reportedly even constructed a private runway, highlighting the stark contrast between leadership privileges and the general population's hardships. While I can't verify all these details with absolute certainty, we do know he has some experience with the An-148. A 2014 North Korean documentary shows Kim Jong-un in the captain's seat of an An-148, reviewing what appears to be a pre-flight checklist before pushing the throttles forward. One interesting detail I noticed: although the footage isn't entirely clear, Kim Jong-un appears not to be wearing his seatbelt. The documentary shows the aircraft taking off, with Kim Jong-un handling the control stick as they fly over North Korea's landscape before successfully landing. Of course, who was really flying the plane? I suspect the pilot in the right seat handled most of the actual flying. Available information indicates Kim Jong-un has never obtained any pilot's licenses, and since the aircraft's control columns are interconnected, he was likely just resting his hand on the controls while the co-pilot did the real flying. While this footage was clearly meant to showcase their leader's supposed omnipotence, it does reveal Kim Jong-un's genuine enthusiasm for aviation. This might be seen as an interesting case of opposing extremes, as both previous Kim dynasty leaders were famously afraid of air travel. The exact reasons for this fear are difficult to verify, as the North Korean government would never officially disclose such information. Interestingly, Kim Il-sung, the first-generation leader, frequently traveled by air early in his rule, but at some point completely stopped using North Korean aircraft. South Korean media has reported that North Korea purchased several Il-62 aircraft in 1982 for both civilian and government use, including what would become Changhae-1 and Changhae-2. As these were to serve as presidential aircraft, both leaders naturally wanted to inspect them personally. However, during a test flight at Pyongyang's Sunan Airport, they reportedly witnessed one of the Il-62s exploding in midair. This accident allegedly killed all 17 crew members aboard, who were meant to be the presidential aircraft's crew. This incident supposedly traumatized both Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, leading to their subsequent refusal to travel by air. Such a reaction would be understandable, Witnessing an aircraft crash would likely leave anyone with lifelong psychological scars. However, I cannot definitively confirm whether this incident actually occurred. Given how long ago this supposedly happened, verifying its authenticity is challenging, but it's certainly an interesting topic for discussion. This concludes our exploration of North Korea's presidential aircraft and aviation history. I sincerely appreciate your attention and support. Until our next video, goodbye.